Let's go. Los Angeles Rams next up on the board. For the first time since 2016, the Los Angeles Rams will work on Thursday night. They're actually going to work. They're going to have to do something.
In the house.
Presumably in the house. Maybe they're going to be. Maybe the house was just there because they weren't really working.
Well, or are they going to get a better house now that they're actually going to do things?
Or they're going to be in the office. They're probably going to go to the office because this is serious. They have a first-round pick right now, first time since 2016. Rams coming off of just a fantastic season. When we're doing all these exercises, we're using depth charts. It's an on-paper discussion, and the Rams were one of the most fascinating on-paper teams last year because they still had Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald, and literally the rest of the team was like Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl guys within the last 2 years. I mean, for the most part. I mean, it was young team. But you get the Puka Nacua breakout, you get the Kobe Turner breakout, and all of a sudden, and then the stars played like stars. Cooper Kupp was hurt, but boom, there they are, a playoff team. So now the Rams, they've reset the salary cap situation. They could not play in free agency the last couple of years after going #all in. And here we go. The Rams are back to play in the offseason games.
Yeah, they got cap space and they got draft picks. This is a whole new world for the Los Angeles Rams. Now, most of those draft picks are still day 3, but still, they do have a first rounder, they have a second rounder, and they have 2 third rounders. So they basically don't have they've got 4 picks in the first 3 rounds, and then a whole bunch of
How
day
many
2
do they
picks.
have total? They had
12, 11.
11 total picks.
Yeah. And
3 7th-round comp picks, it looks like.
Right, and cap space to play with.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're players in the entire offseason, and they kind of need to be, because as much as they were good last year and dramatically better than I think people expected, still a lot of holes in this roster.
So starting on the offensive side of the ball, they're going to lose 2 starting offensive linemen, Coleman Shelton and Kevin Dotson, it looks like. I know Dotson, definitely one of the more coveted, should be on our list, one of the more coveted guards. Well, again, preface it with, I don't know if the NFL feels the same way as us, but we did have him as the number 2 graded guard last year, breakout season with the Rams. As we said with other teams, if you could bring him back on the cheap because we like him more than the NFL does, do it.
Yeah. They've also, by the way, I think already re-signed DeMarcus Robinson.
They brought DeMarcus Robinson back for like $5 or $6 million a year.
There's some weird, there's a hilarious and slightly strange infatuation with DeMarcus Robinson going on this team.
Well, he was awesome last year.
But
he was fantastic last year.
No, he wasn't.
He was good.
He was force-fed the ball in the red zone last year for some reason.
That's right.
Which didn't make any sense at the time, doesn't make any sense later, and yet they've been like, you know what, we need to go get DeMarcus Robinson back. That man was a playmaker.
This is why you think it's easy to sit in this squeaky chair. You think it's easy to sit in this chair, analyze all 32 teams, have good, strong, aggressive takes, be right all the time. Because sitting in this chair the last couple of years, if you had told me DeMarcus Robinson would be far better and more productive than Allen Robinson, I would say that's crazy town.
Wouldn't have made any sense.
Crazy. All Allen Robinson needed was a good quarterback. Hadn't had one since middle school.
Finally got one, then played terribly.
Then it got worse.
Forever.
Yeah.
It's like a good quarterback actually broke Allen Robinson. He's only capable of playing with terrible quarterbacks.
Yeah. I'm used to watching the ball sail over my head.
Yeah.
I mean, Kenny Pickett's probably the second best quarterback he's ever played with behind Matthew Stafford, and his production has been at an all-time low.
Yeah.
But DeMarcus Robinson, solid. Been good.
Yeah. But solid in a way that feels like you could do that with any receiver in the world. You know? Like if you just started feeding any receiver in the game the targets that he had in the red zone last year, they're probably getting 400 yards and 4 touchdowns.
I still think, I mean, it's a pretty cheap deal. DeMarcus Robinson, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. I do think they might still be in, let's add to the receiver core market.
Yeah, I mean, they're primed for just draft a guy in the 3rd and see if he can come in and make an impact, you know?
Yeah, they could do that. Your boy Jamari Thrash.
Yes.
Jamari Thrash would be a good fit.
That would be a good one.
For the Rams.
I would like that a lot. Or Roman Wilson.
Or Roman Wilson. Yeah, so let's get a mid-round receiver in there.
Javon Baker, the UCF receiver.
Yeah.
That would be a good one too.
They're all in play.
All in play.
They're all in play. What about a pick 19 for the Rams? Another center needy team? Are they JPJ? first round option? Jackson Powers Johnson, the center out of Oregon.
Yeah, they could. I mean, they're one of those teams that could go in a variety of different directions at this pick. Like, they have need at cornerback, they have need on the offensive line, they have need at.
I don't know what they value in the first round.
Nobody does.
Their last 2 first round picks were a QB and a running back.
I mean, 2016.
Yeah.
It's 2024.
Gurley, yeah. Goff in 16, Gurley in 15.
Yeah.
Donald
a long time ago.
Aaron Donald was the 3rd to last first round pick for the Rams.
The last first round pick that the Rams used on a player in the draft predates the Trump presidency.
Amazing.
That's a long, long time ago.
Who was the tackle that went at 2 the year, Donald? I always say Jason Smith was the 2009 number 2 overall failed tackle. Oh, it was Greg Robinson.
Yeah.
So the last 4 first-round picks were Goff, Gurley, Donald, and Greg Robinson.
It's a mixed bag.
In 2014. It was a while ago. So I don't know what they covet. I will say the edge defender, Byron Young played a lot last year, but they could definitely use help there, and I don't know where the board ends up falling here.
Anything to stop Michael Hoyt playing on the edge is a positive thing, in my opinion.
We need him playing a little more Sam, a little more.
I mean,
dropping
honestly,
into coverage.
With all due respect to Michael Hoyt, I kind of feel like you want him playing on the bench as much as possible. But whatever, you need to have him not playing edge rush or running downfield, covering guys from the slot.
Latu, Verse, they fall to 19. Are they available? I don't know if they are.
Yeah, I think edge rusher is in play. I think corner is in play. I think offensive line is in play. I think they're actually in a pretty nice spot of being able to just sort of sit there and see how the draft pans out and then grab your favorite player at your position of need.
I think you're right on all of those. Left tackle, could definitely use a left tackle. Definitely could use a starting corner. I think corner and edge should be 2 top priorities this offseason for the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Do they want to play aggressively in the corner market? Do they want to play the L'Jarius Sneed game at corner if he's available?
It's a weird offseason for them because they're not the same as the Giants a year ago, right? For the simple fundamental reason that instead of Daniel Jones, they have Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Like, it's a different dynamic.
Stafford, by the way, playing the best ball of his career.
Right. But it is, I think, slightly similar in terms of it's a very unstable bit of success that they just enjoyed. Like, it didn't make sense on paper. You look at what they did last year and you're like, that offensive line was terrible on paper and somehow played much better than it looked like it should. And you start looking at this roster and you're like, there's a lot of bad players expected to play significant playing time. So I think just they need to be a bit careful with the way they approach this offseason. They can't go crazy and sort of pretend that they're, right there on the cusp and they just need a big splash play or whatever. They still need to do this the right way.
Yeah, I think the difference with I don't like the Giants comparison because of the foundation is stronger.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is
what I've just said.
I know that. And because what you said, they're young players. They've got a plethora of young players who can develop, and then you sprinkle in the splash plays, a L'Jarius Sneed type, or sign Kendall Fuller, like get a big name corner, draft another corner, add another slew of draft picks in there, and all of a sudden, the Rams are in business here. So I think they're close. I think they're closer because they used a reset year to make the playoffs, but I think it was real because they hit on Puka Nacua and what he was able to do, and they did it with Cooper Kupp largely injured. Like they're pretty well set up, I think.
Yeah,
that's how I see it.
I think that it's just more fragile than that. Like, if it's a much more stable foundation than the Giants because they're strong in the right areas, but like the offensive line could easily collapse next year and be what it looked like it was on paper heading into the season. I mean, they could, like, if they upgraded 4 starters or 3 starters this offseason, it wouldn't be crazy, and like that's a pretty significant factor in terms of how good your team is going to be next year. And then you need to go and like attack defense. So yeah, like they're in a better position than the Giants, but I think the caution would still be that, like, let's just not assume that this is a playoff caliber team next year because it was this year.
Another team that could use defensive line depth. You got Aaron Donald, Kobe Turner, Bobby Brown on the defensive interior, but I think edge both play in the free agent game and potentially in the draft. got to attack that position. Corner, I think, might be the biggest need on this team. And then those two starting spots, center and guard. Try to bring back Kevin Dotson and stitch it together at center. Left tackle, too, the other one, Alaric Jackson and Joe Noteboom battling for that spot. I think you could use an upgrade there. Again, I think the Rams are going to be more aggressive, obviously, now that they have cap space and they're not just trying to reset the whole roster. Jonah Williams potentially involved there. Tyron Smith, do they play in that world for a year or two?
I also kind of wonder if they go crazy now that they have a first-round draft pick and trade up with it.
Yeah.
We're actually in play at the top of the draft. Let's go all the way.
I mean, there's also part of the reason why they traded the first-round pick is because they studied it and they're like, well, if we're picking it in the 20s, we're better off having a veteran plus the contract. They might still believe that, right? So they might take 19 and keep trading down and accumulating more picks, or they flip it for a veteran somewhere.
Yeah, it felt like a year ago, actually, when you were on the Sloan panel with Kevin Demoff. It felt like listening to him sort of articulate the dynamics around their strategy, that they felt that there was an edge towards that strategy, but that it had kind of reached the end of its lifespan, and now either everyone else is catching up to the same idea, or it's simply time to find the next edge. It doesn't feel like they're going to do the same thing over again just because they have first-round picks again. I feel like they're going to go in a different direction with that, whether that's just use your pick or whether that's actually trade with it.
I believe it was last year. I think 8 teams didn't have a first-round pick. It was some kind of record, right? So when you talk about they lost that edge, other teams started doing that. They traded for Tyreek Hill and A.J. Brown.
He was sort of very specific in articulating, look, things like that are only an edge as long as you're the first person doing it and nobody else is doing it. Now when literally a quarter of the league is doing it, you're no longer stealing a march in everybody, so you got to do something else.
Or are they the team that calls Denver from 2 hours ago for Patrick Surtain? Here, take my next 2 first.
Maybe.
I don't know that they're. I mean, just last year in a rebuilding year, 2022, they were allegedly offering 2 firsts for Brian Burns, who, by the way, are they going to go get Brian Burns on the free agent market right now as well?